Good morning. I don't know what day it is, the 22nd probably of February 25, and I think this is the day. Last couple of days have been raining and above zero. It's above zero again this morning, so snow is still melting and melted overnight. So it melted off most of the snow off this chassis, so today's the day we're going to put this thing back into its home here. So hang around. It's going to be interesting. Move back into the old can workshop, the C-can. Working at the water pump. Managed to get this outside flange of the adjusting pulley loosened up, and well, it was working. All right, loosened up so it rotates. I had to repair this here set bolt or modify it. They just had a straight 3/8 bolt in there, and of course they tighten it down on these little. There's three little grooves there, so you tighten down your belt on those grooves. But they just tighten the bolt down on the threads. Made it pretty hard to get the thing apart, but I got it apart, and this is ready to go. No broken flanges on the pump, except almost half of the sheave is broke away on this side. So it didn't escape no damages, that's for sure. On top of it, I got the thermostat housing apart. Managed to get this all cleaned up here. This is pretty much cleaned up. No broken flanges on here. Of course, different story on the body for the thermostat. There was no thermostat in here, but I'm just going to use a regular automotive thermostat, put it in there, put a thicker gasket on to accommodate the flange of the thermostat. Bob's your uncle. Got the old temperature sending unit out of there. Pretty pitted on some of the flanges, but we'll either put some JB weld on there and file them smooth. Do whatever you have to do. Put lots of gasket glue on there. This one here is pitted almost, well, edge to edge here, so that's definitely got to be dressed up. And of course, there's brazing. They broke part of this here flange off. Par for the course. Okay, pretty much done for the day. I think we better take a break. Well, this morning I'm back in the C-can shop and cleaning up some more accessories to bolt on the side of that engine. And this here casting here is the crankcase ventilation assembly and oil fill combination. And every damn one of these bolt holes, and one is still missing. All these bolts were busted off that flange, and two welded back on. One was welded back on and it's still missing, so they broke it again. Man, there is not very much on this here particular old engine that's never been abused and busted off. I just can't get over how much damage has been done to this poor thing. It's starting to make me feel sorry for it. While it's raining, last couple of days is pretty uncomfortable work outside, so I've been doing a lot of cleaning gasket surfaces. I got that fuel heating flange polished up right over here, plus the main body of the injector pump polished up over there. And that's going to go over into this area. Get over here, focus, catch up. I made a cork gasket there to put that injector pump on, and still haven't got the all rod there to put those 3 long studs in. So anyway, that's what we were doing. I'm getting pretty dirty working at this stuff, but that's what we were doing while it was raining. moving on over to this filter housing, which is a fairly big housing, and surprisingly, nothing is broke on it. That's amazing. It's one of the rare housings on this here assembly that's not been broken and welded. But anyway, in brief explanation of how this thing works, it is built in with two bypasses, one in the center and one off to the side. Those two bypasses do, well, basically they bypass for sure, but two different areas where they're controlling flow. Basic operation is oil pump inside the oil pan, pumps up oil into this huge casting, and it goes through the filters and gets diverted into this oil gallery, which in turn pumps oil throughout the engine, returns to sump. But in the process, oil first comes into this casting and is immediately pushed out into the oil cooler, and then returns and goes up into the filters, so on and so forth, and goes back down and then gets diverted into this oil gallery. The very first bypass, which I believe is this one here, in case it's blocked, in case the oil cooler is blocked, it just immediately bypasses and then continues its way through. And then the second bypass is going to regulate if it senses a blockage in the filters. Then it'll totally bypass the filters and the cooler and everything and just go straight circulating into the engine. Now this is has the two bypasses, one because they have the oil cooler out in the front, of which this has been deleted. These are not pipe fittings anymore so much as they're just blockages. The oil filter, or the cooler, was damaged at one time and wrecked, so they just blocked it off and disposed of it. And then CAT, I guess, relinquished the need for an oil cooler on this size of engine. It's not a turboed or anything like that, high horsepower. It was kind of a redundant feature. They didn't need it. So consequently, this bypass here in the middle, I think I said it wrong. This one here diverts into the oil cooler. This one has been deleted. All that's left in there is basically the spring. The little ball that does the bypassing has been removed. So it just goes straight into filtration. And then if it's blocked in the filters, this one kicks in and it goes direct feed into the oil galleries. One has to remember that these engines were built 100 years ago, or 80, 90 years ago anyway, but almost 100 years ago. And at that time, they didn't have a winter, like a W affixed to their oil, like a W, 10, 30, 15, 40, whatever. It was straight 30, 40, 50 weight. There was no dual viscosities. So at 20 below zero or 30 below zero, this oil down here is pretty darn solid. That's why the pony motor for starting a cold diesel was really advantageous. That pony motor was easy to start. It was a gas, it was small. Started up the heating process throughout the block. Later engines had the exhaust even going through the intake manifold to heat up the air going in. And you just rotated this diesel around, pumping oil and warming it up before you would open up the fuel. So what would happen if it was stone cold? All this movement going up here through the oil cooler, that 40 weight oil is solid. It's not moving very fast. Like, it might creep like molasses, but it's not going to move very fast. So the bypass would come into play right there. It would eliminate all that travel. So the bypass would open to circulate the oil quicker. And indeed, if the filters were at a little bit of a plugged up state, the same thing. That oil is not going to travel through those filters. So the second bypass would open. So on all cold starts, to make sure the engine received oil pressure, these bypasses would open up. Oil would directly circulate into the bearings. Eventually, when the oil got warm, everything got warmed up, the bypasses would close. It would circulate through the oil filter and circulate through the oil cooler. So that's my take on it. More than in case filters got plugged because of being dirty, or the oil cooler got plugged because the line got kinked. It was primarily for cold weather starting. The first 15-20 minutes of turning this engine over, without these bypasses, oil would not be reaching the bearings. So pretty hard on the bearings. Anyway, let's put this thing together. The first thing to go into place is this canister. This is an original canister to Caterpillar. It's rusty, hardly no paint left on it, but it would sit on top of that. There's an O-ring down here. It would sit right on top of that, and that would be held into place by this through bolt, and the oil would come up through this bolt, exit out these holes, and indeed out through the top into the top section. We'll get to that shortly. But anyway, this screws down, and that will cinch the first can. It was actually the original can. That's the way this machine would have come out from the factory, just a canister with a brass mesh screen system inside. That's tightened down. Next goes on this little bit of a washer, and that just keeps this canister dropping in past that nut that's down there. So this would be going in place, and this is a brass screen made to 3/1000ths of an inch micron. So it would basically just filter out the bigger pieces. And there's two screens, one inside each other, both at 3/1000ths micron. Now this here is not from factory, but it is a Caterpillar thing. It holds a filter, like a regular paper cartridge filter. It was added to, they figured they needed more filtration, so they put that stacked up there, and it's held in with this center bolt. I got the filter number. I can get it from Napa, but I'm not putting it in place at this point. I'm just putting this together. I'm gonna have to adjust this drain line. It goes up the top here. That's how it circulates down through there into the crankcase again. But I'm going to have to straighten this out. It's all mangled and attaches to there. Out of frame, but that last canister is up there. It's empty, got no paper in it, connected up to that line, cinched right down. But it is the tallest, biggest filtering system ever developed for this size of a cat, but that's what they had. Interesting to note, to put that first bolt down there to tighten it up, I had to make a adaptation to this 7/8 combo wrench. Had to bend it over so I could get it down there and tighten that thing up. So we'll put this away in the secret location for special tools for these older vintage style. Okay, it's all together. Just see if we can focus in a little bit better. Getting rain on the camera. Anyway, there's those two assemblies put on. That's a ridiculously big oil filter for the work that it does. This here is not the original line. It's been, of course, it's been broken, copper soldered to steel, put together, but we're not going to change that at all. At this point, we're just trying to put this thing back together so that it's together and holds oil, can rotate, and so on and so forth. All right, off to the next one. Well, I found 3 long studs in the tickle trunk. Had to modify them, but I think they're going to work. They're actually bolts, really, so they're not going to stay in the engine casting, but rather they'll come out if you ever take the pump off again. But 6 one, half dozen other, I think it's going to work. So now I'm just going to try to lift that heavy son of a gun up into position. Neighbors are going crazy with the chainsaws right now. Okay, I got the tower split off of that pump, so and I greased that nose there, so hopefully it's going to go on a little easier. Now I'm thinking I better take that transfer pump out. Yeah, going on now. I might have, if I would have took that pump off, I might have, get it with all together. But all right, just put a couple of nuts on there and get that cinched in a bit. Okay, transfer pump back in. This is still loose because I got to connect the rod up. Now we'll get the injector pump in there. Well, that's kind of maybe a good thing I took it apart anyway. There's more crud in there. All right. Maybe I'll put some grease around that O-ring. We're not replacing that. That's actually an O-ring, but it looks like it's a rectangular ring now. It gets so damn compressed. I'll get some grease on it. And just like that, that son of a gun's on there. Okay, moving right along. I had to dig out just about every darn extension I had. 1, 2, 3, 4 extensions and a swivel. And then to get the, because I got one, there's a nut in behind there, them long bolts. One has a nut on it. I had to put a nut inside here, pack it with grease, put the other one on so I could get it on there to start. It was a bit of a go around, but we got her done. Well, I've been wrestling with this fuel pump all this time, but I got the front pin to the governor and rod together with the cotter pin there, so that's going to be good. I can put the cover back on there. Moving over to the side, we have this other in the fuel tower pin and cotter pin in, so that's good. But the rack here, I had to open that up. It was stuck. Number 1 and number 4 were stuck. Now my darn battery is dying, so there it goes. The rack, number 1 and number 4 plungers were stuck. The rack wouldn't move, but I got it freed up now. I can reach in here. She moves quite freely. Got the plungers all going up and down, so I can button this right up and maybe have lunch and see if we can get this into place. Notice on the bottom of the frame I got a L pin screwed in either side on the bell housing, and they sure help out quite a bit. These are modified bolts. I just slash cut them and beveled the edges. They actually work quite well. Canada patent pending. So far, so good. Now, if we can just get that master clutch lined up in the cogs of the flywheel. There, she's nested right in there. This is the wrong bolt here. I'll have to back that out and put the proper length in there, but just got to run all the bolts around and she'll be in there. That was pretty easy. Okay, this thing is not cooperating with me. I end-for-ended that spring, and as you can see, it's got full weight sitting on the spring. The bolt has not come through either side of the block and oil pan there. It's seems to be hanging up on the ribbing or whatever's going on in the oil pan there, so I can't turn, or I can't push it one way or another. This side is pretty open here, but all that fabric cobbled iron there, I don't know. This side isn't so bad. It should jiggle itself down. So let's go look at the other side. It's really fabric cobbled. Now I got a crowbar and it's wedged in there, but the full weight of the machine's on. So you can see those springs on either end has been cut short, and it's more fabric cobbling going on here for the bracket there to hold the spring down to the track frame. Plus the end of it, you can see, is hitting this plate on the spring. So I'm probably going to have to get the torch going in there and cut more of the corner of that spring out, possibly, and maybe it'll cooperate. But probably the better thing to do is to well, go torch all that fabric cobbled crap off there and make new bracketry there to hold the spring down to the track frame. Well, that's going to be it for me today. It's going to call the end of the video right here. Tomorrow's another day, another battle. But the engine is in, it's bolted down, except for the bottom bolts. I haven't put them in, because not yet anyway, because the stump pan goes up in there and bolts those bolts same time. I don't know if I'm going to put the stump pan in this machine. Probably not. There would be no use to putting it in there, I guess. But maybe to keep it all together, I guess. We'll make that big decision later. So if you like watching me struggle with these dear old wrecks there, please like, subscribe, and press that little bell there. I just realized that. The notification bell. Who knew? Learning all the time. So we're going to call her good. We'll catch up to you later.